préparer? Est-ce qu'il va falloir se serrer la ceinture dans le budget qui s'en vient?
M. Poilievre continue de prôner l'austérité, les coupures. Nous, on va continuer d'être là pour les gens. Oui, on va être là pour investir, pour aider les familles qui font face à des moments difficiles, tout en bâtissant une économie plus forte pour les années à venir. Je pense que c'est un choix de choisir de s'appuyer sur la colère réelle que les gens sentent sans vouloir offrir des solutions. Mais nous, on a plein de solutions. C'est sûr que je ne suis pas d'accord avec ses propos et je m'attends à ce qu'elle se clarifie. La réalité, c'est qu'elle a une job importante à faire et pour bâtir des ponts et pour lutter contre l'islamophobie partout où elle existe au pays. Listen, Mr. Poilievre has chosen to amplify people's real anger, and instead of offering them solutions, just offer them more anger. We're going to be offering real solutions, as we have, whether it's stepping up for Canadians with dental benefits, with the rental supports for low-income Canadians, or building an economy in which there are going to be good middle-class jobs right across the country as we transform into a better future. These are things we're offering, and Canadians will have a clear choice.
Affordable child care is available is something that is going to be an essential foundation for our economy and really for social justice in the future. So we'll start off with that, and then we're going to be going to C-22, which is moving forward on help for those who are most vulnerable, the disabled. So that'll be also an early priority.
And where do you see guns coming back? How do you see that timeline for that piece of legislation? Yeah, so the dialogue on guns is ongoing. We are having conversations over the last, right now and over the last month or so since the House broke with stakeholders on both sides. This is a very emotionally charged issue. We want to make sure that we get weapons that were involved in mass casualty events, weapons that are used to do mass killings off the streets, and at the same time we want to make sure that we don't interfere with those that have hunting as a way of life and a passion. And so those are delicate conversations, and moving to that on the timelines, which is we have to work with the other parties. That isn't solely ours to do, and so we're having discussions both at a House leader level but also at a minister to critic level and with all of our parliamentarians on how we get that balance right. That isn't an easy conversation, and that's why I don't have an immediate answer around timeline, but it's our objective to do that as quickly as possible. Do you expect that President Biden will give a speech to Parliament when he comes?
I'm very much looking forward to President Biden coming, and beyond that I don't...
Has he been invited to give a speech?
That's not for me to comment on.
What does it say about the state of the gun legislation that 2 months after the last committee session, you still don't know what the timeline is? You still don't have an accord with the opposition parties on how many days you'll sit, who you'll hear from.
Well, I mean, what it says is this is a very difficult emotional issue. I was the critic in opposition for public safety and national security as we worked through issues at that time with firearms legislation and decisions around firearms. This is always a very emotional, difficult topic, and if I've learned anything from that period of time and all the discussions that we've had over the last 20 years about firearms that I've been involved in Parliament, is that you need to move deliberatively and you need to engage stakeholders, and it takes time. You have to have patience.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
I wanted to get your reaction to Premier Doug Ford today saying that there is a give and take on healthcare funding. It seems to be softening his stance from the 35% demand that has come from the last 2 years. What's your take on it?
Well, like everyone, including Premier Ford, we know that what matters at the end, the type of result that we can better deliver to Canadians. So we do talk about dollars, but we talk most importantly about our support for workers and patients.
Right, but dollars is sort of the main focus. I understand results come from those dollars, but is it more realistic to think it will be less than 35%?
Well, in respect for all of those hardworking premiers and certainly health ministers, I think we need to have those conversations among ourselves. Mm-hmm. Everyone agrees that dollars matter. Yes, everyone knows that there have been lots of dollars and many more in recent months sent to provinces and territories to help support workers and patients. And everyone knows there will be more dollars also with what we are trying to do. At the end, it's going to be the outcome that will matter to Canadians.
So let me ask you it this way. Premier Doug Ford is describing these negotiations as a give and take, suggesting a softening on the number. How do you describe the negotiations that you're seeing?
Well, I would ask Premier Ford, obviously, who is extremely well-informed and well-intentioned on this matter. So I've had a great relationship with Minister Jones at my level, and I continue to have that.
Thank you. And is there give and take?
Thank
Do you
you.
see give and take?
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you.
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de la nomination de Amira Elghawaby et ses commentaires sur la majorité de Québécois qui ont un sentiment anti-musulman?
Bon, je crois que c'est important que nous avons quelqu'un qui peut travailler sur le sentiment d'anti-islamophobie. Ça, c'est quelque chose qui est vraiment important. On a vu beaucoup d'attentes contre les musulmans partout au Canada. Alors, c'est quelque chose comme avec l'antisémitisme. Bien, aujourd'hui, c'est la journée internationale de souvenir de l'Holocauste, d'assurer que nous travaillons contre la haine, contre le racisme et contre la...
Mais justement, avoir quelqu'un qui travaille contre la haine, mais qui a dit dans le passé, la majorité des Québécois sont anti-musulmans, est-ce que c'est pas un peu contradictoire?
Travailler contre la haine, c'est quelque chose qui est extrêmement important et c'est quelque chose que nous devrions tous être en train de faire.
Oui, mais elle, est-ce qu'elle est la
Canada.
bonne personne pour faire ça? C'est ça la question.
Je crois que j'ai confiance dans elle et bien sûr, c'est quelque chose d'extrêmement difficile. C'est difficile, ce sujet-là, mais c'est extrêmement important.
Est-ce qu'elle a à présenter peut-être des excuses pour avoir traité les Québécois d'anti-musulmans? Est-ce que vous pensez que ça vaudrait des excuses?
Moi, je crois que de travailler les questions de haine, de l'antisémitisme, de l'islamophobie.
Non, je sais, mais c'est pas la question directement.
C'est quelque chose d'extrêmement important. On voit des attaques à chaque jour sur les personnes ici au Canada et c'est quelque chose qu'on veut que tout le monde dans ce pays se sent en sécurité de pratiquer leur religion et d'être leur-même.
Mais les Québécois sont Monsieur, bonjour, rappelez-vous, Monsieur Champagne. Oui, mais vous avez le temps. Madame Amira, la nomination. On vous le pardonne, c'est tellement
Vous
bon.
me pardonnez, ça va être à la télé ce soir?
Oui, parce que vous êtes super bon.
Je vais parler à M. Blouin.
Madame Amira, cette nomination à l'islamophobie, ces commentaires concernant les Québécois qui sont une majorité, ont un sentiment anti-musulman, vous en pensez quoi?
C'est préoccupant, je l'ai déjà dit ce matin. Vos collègues m'ont posé la même question. Je pense que tout le monde sait que le Québec, c'est une société ouverte, c'est une société où on accueille les gens et je pense que c'est des propos. Je pense qu'elle doit réfléchir à ces propos-là parce que ça représente certainement pas l'identité des Québécois, mais aussi l'accueil que les Québécois réservent.
Alors, vous rester à ce poste?
Écoutez, ça va être au premier ministre de prendre cette décision-là, mais je pense que... Non, ça va être au premier ministre de prendre cette décision-là, mais je pense qu'il faut remettre les pendules à l'heure et certainement faut toujours être prudent avec les mots. Moi, c'est ça que je dirais. Et certainement, cette prudence-là doit s'appliquer à elle comme à tout le monde.
Vous avez des collègues
Merci.
qui semblent pas penser qu'il y a de...
Welcome back. Hello. I can hear you all at once.
Can you
Yes.
talk about Lucky has decided not to ban the throat and choke holds? Are you satisfied with that? That is not the direction you gave her.
Well, the very first thing I would say is that it is important that we reform our law enforcement institutions so that they can maintain the confidence of all Canadians, and that is precisely why, after receiving my mandate letter from the Prime Minister, I took the additional further step to lay out very clearly how we can create that reform within the RCMP. The point here is to ensure that the RCMP set the gold standard when it comes to use of force so that we can keep Canadians safe and make sure that we're doing it in a way that is responsible and professional, and we're going to continue to make sure that we work with the RCMP to enact those reforms.
I understand that you spoke to Mayor Tory this morning about the Toronto transit violence. What did you say to him, and what can the federal government do to help?
Well, in fact, I spoke with him a couple of nights ago, and I am very concerned, not only as a parliamentarian and as a minister from Toronto, but as a resident who uses public transit with my family, as many do. So it's very, very important that we continue to work very closely with Mayor Tory. We have been there. We will continue to be there for the City of Toronto, and that dialogue will continue. Thanks very much.
So, what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, it's an independent position, but the appointment of the special representative to combat Islamophobia is the culmination of the leadership that Quebecers showed in standing against Islamophobia. I was there in 2017 with Premier Couillard and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau when we attended the memorial for the 6 men who were killed in Sainte-Foy. And there you could see Quebecers from all walks of life who came together and stood with Muslim Quebecers against Islamophobia. Quebecers have shown tremendous leadership against Islamophobia and all forms of hate, and this position was created to build on that leadership.
Okay,
Pardon?
but then you nominate someone who was of that opinion back in 2019 after the
position
adoption
is
of Bill
independent,
21.
but I can tell you that the position is independent, and I will have Ms. Elghawaby respond to your questions. But our government's position is very clear. We recognize the leadership of Quebecers and Canadians against Islamophobia. I was there for the memorial in 2017 for the 6 men who were killed in Sainte-Foy, and I saw with my own eyes Premier Couillard at the time and Quebecers from all walks of life who stood with their Muslim neighbors and friends.
So can she remember?
As I said, the position is independent. She can answer and make comments on your questions. I'm just answering his question. But our government's position is very clear. We recognize Quebec as a welcoming society. We know Quebecers have stood tall against racism and hate and Islamophobia. And I was there in 2017 when during the memorial for the 6 men who were killed in the mosque in Sainte-Foy, and I saw with my own eyes Quebecers leading on this position. You know that.
Quoi?
Essentiellement, le gouvernement et M. Trudeau ont eu un certain laxisme pour s'adresser à l'Alliance dans le sport. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ces propos? Que ça vient de votre propre famille?
Bien, je vais commencer par transmettre mes meilleures pensées à ma collègue Christy Duncan qui a annoncé hier, malheureusement, qu'elle devait prendre une pause pour des raisons de santé. Évidemment, je lui souhaite un prompt rétablissement, puis j'ai très hâte de la revoir parmi nous. Maintenant, j'étais pas là au moment où Mme Duncan était ministre, mais ce que je peux dire, c'est qu'il n'y a aucun gouvernement qui en a fait autant que le nôtre pour faire avancer la question de la sécurité des athlètes dans le sport. Également, je ressens l'appui de mes collègues, évidemment l'appui aussi du ministère du Sport Canada pour ces dossiers-là. Puis le premier ministre a été très clair à plusieurs occasions là, sur l'importance d'assurer la sécurité des athlètes. Il a pris position dans le dossier de Hockey Canada.
Prévenir même la situation qui est survenue à Hockey Canada, si vous aviez voulu.
Bien, écoutez, par rapport à la situation d'Hockey Canada, on a vu que c'est un problème systémique au sein de l'organisation. On a réclamé des changements rapidement pour que le conseil d'administration soit changé, puis qu'on amorce ce virage-là du côté de la culture du sport. C'est le cas pour l'ensemble des sports. Ce qu'on voit présentement, c'est qu'il faut que le bien-être des athlètes soit remis au centre de tout ce qui est fait dans le système sportif. Et que ça doit passer avant la performance ou encore les médailles.
Que pensez-vous de la nomination d'Amira Elghawaby qui a dit que les Québécois avaient une majorité de sentiments anti-musulmans?
Je supporte tout à fait les propos de mon lieutenant du Québec à ce sujet-là ce matin, puis je vais m'en tenir à ça.
As a government, before you joined this file, before the Hockey Canada controversy exploded, had the government done enough on the safe sports file?
Well, you know, my colleague Christy Duncan started this conversation when she was sport minister, and we have continuously progressed on the question of advancing the security of athletes. Now, you know, amongst the hundreds of thousands of people that participate in sport in Canada, the federal government has responsibility over less than 4,000 athletes. So if we want to ensure the safety of athletes and make sure that no athletes are left behind, this is going to be a very important topic during my next meeting in PEI during the Canada Games with my counterparts from the provinces and territories, because just like education and health, it's under their responsibility. So we need to work together together to make sure that athletes are safe.
Have you felt pushback from your own party, from the government, trying to move forward this file?
I can say, and Hockey Canada was a great example where the Prime Minister was extremely strong, saying that what happened was unacceptable. I've always felt support not only by the department but from my colleagues and the Prime Minister itself to do more to make sure that athletes are safe and to advance security in sport in Canada.
And why won't you launch a public inquiry into safety in sports?
Well, like I just said, the federal government has a responsibility over less than 4,000 athletes in the sports system. It's the athletes that are part of our national teams and that represent Canada on the international stage. So if we want to address most situations of abuse and maltreatment, which happens very often in local or community or provincial clubs, we need to work with the provinces and territories to make sure that athletes are safe and that they are covered by an independent mechanism to investigate those situations of abuse and maltreatment. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so, as far as the new gig is concerned, you've seen what needs to be done sometimes as a finance minister. What needs to be done right now, this time, as far as tightening the belt of the government?
I mean, certainly that's a big preoccupation for the government. We want to make certain that we provide enough incentives and support to grow the economy, to sustain the programs that matter to us. And that's certainly something that's being talked about quite a bit. And I'm looking forward to adding value and providing, support where I can.
Did you read the report that was?
Did you read that?
On the green belt?
There'll be some discussion in regards to that too. And certainly there's preoccupation by many about preserving our environment while necessitating supports to grow the economy.
What was your reaction to that report this week that said the government's fiscal track is at risk given high interest rates, inflation, all of that?
Yeah, so one of the other overriding factors is to make certain that we grow the economy and the GDP to offset some of those constraints. But we are, again, I'll leave it to the Minister of Finance and others that are addressing those very issues. But we do have, we want to make certain that we fight cost of living, affordability. These are priorities for the government.
What did you hear in your constituency over Christmas about that? People's concerns about that? Overall, the economic prospects.
I think people want us to be real. They want us to serve them. They want us to make certain that we're listening and that we react accordingly. They want to make certain that we take steps to support their affordability issues. Help, mums and dads get a good start. Having a job, making sure their kids get a good start in life, making sure their parents, grandparents have the health care that they need. These are all supports and requirements that we have always been concerned about, and they are too.
So do you get the impression that they were frustrated and angry?
On Ontario, on private health.
Actually, I got a lot of support at the doors. I was quite supportive, and I was quite encouraged by the reaction that I was receiving.
On private health care in Ontario, Doug Ford's government is expanding the private health care system within a publicly paid system. Do you support that?
I'm looking at the universality and protecting the universality of the system to ensure that we have what's required to have equity in the system, that everyone gets the services that they need, regardless of their status in life. But we also want to make certain.
Are you worried about what Ford's doing?
But we also want to make certain that we provide service effectively. And he's looking at other alternatives. I get that. We want to make certain that we protect universality and protect our system of equity.
And you're not looking at running for the provincial leadership, are you?
I'm running into this meeting right now. See you guys.